Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me for Erie County's daily COVID-19 pandemic update. We have 2 new confirmed positive cases reported in Erie County since yesterday's briefing, bringing us to a total of 15 cases positively identified as COVID-19 virus infections. All of these individuals are in self-isolation at their homes. Of the 2 new cases, one is in their 50s and one is in their 60s. Both of these individuals either contacted COVID-19 through contact with a positive COVID-19 individual or through travel. Contact tracing is being done by the Erie County Department of Health, and as a reminder, if you do not personally hear from a public health nurse, you are not a close contact of an individual who is identified as being confirmed to have COVID-19. Across the state of Pennsylvania, we see our numbers continually growing. There are now 4,089 cases in Pennsylvania with 49 deaths. Philadelphia now has reached over 1,000 positive cases. In Allegheny County, just our neighbor to the south, has 290 positive cases. To bring some perspective about our neighbors to the east and the west, New York State has over 59,000 cases. Many of those we know are in the New York City area. Chautauqua County has 5 cases. To the west, Ohio has 1,653 cases, 6 of those being in Ashtabula County. And here in Pennsylvania, just to our south, we have our neighbors Warren County with 1 case and Crawford County with 4 cases. So as you can see, COVID-19 has really spread across our region to many of our neighbors, and certainly to our neighboring counties, and also spreading. It's not spreading, but it's growing here in Erie County. Our environmental task force visited 2 businesses today, and thank you to everyone for your cooperation and for working so hard to be in compliance. I want to thank the businesses that are really aiding us in helping to stop the spread of COVID-19 here in Erie County. We continue to identify and share resources to help our businesses, and Senator Casey's office has produced a guide that's very helpful to assist our Pennsylvania small businesses with navigating the recent CARES Act passed by the federal government. Find this guide on eriecountypa.gov under Resources on the COVID-19 page. Please contact us at ecdhinfo@eriecountypa.gov or 814-451-6700 if you have any questions regarding enforcement or compliance of our life-sustaining businesses, or if you're feeling symptomatic and have questions about that. I want to let you know that the 451-6700 number is manned Monday through Friday during normal business hours, and on the evenings and weekends, messages can be left. We have an answering service that will bring anything that's an emergency to the attention of the staff member who is on call, and you will get a call back. If it's not an emergency, then you will be phoned the next business day, whether that be Monday through Friday, or if it's during the weekend, it will be on Monday morning. I want to thank all of you again for doing your part to help us stay ahead of the COVID-19 epidemic here in Erie County. I wish that I could give you an estimate of when the situation will be over. But as Dr. Anthony Fauci has said, you don't make the timeline, the virus makes the timeline. This is a very difficult time for each and every one of us. Families are separated, businesses are temporarily closed, and people are restless. But I make my plea to each and every one of you, please keep up the good work. Stay at home and practice social distancing and good personal hygiene. Have as little close physical contact with another person as possible. We ask you to make the sacrifice now so we can sooner get back to a sense of normalcy. Part of that great and difficult sacrifice is not letting children or other family members and friends visit from outside the area right now. This will make you less likely to catch the virus if you don't let others come into your home, and you will be less likely to need to be quarantined if someone you know comes to visit, goes home, and then you find out they are infected. There are websites that are now tracking how much people are moving around in each county of the United States. Unicast created an interactive scoreboard to measure and understand the efficacy of social distancing initiatives at the local level. As of last week, Erie County unfortunately scored a D. So please, I ask you to stay as close to home as possible. The governor's office today announced that there are now 26 counties, including Erie County, that are now under a stay-at-home order across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Speaking of families, I can only imagine how confusing all of this must be for our young children. And I'm so impressed by the creativity that is coming forth. Social distancing does not mean social disconnection. So here are a few resources to help kids stay engaged and connected and entertained while they are under the stay-at-home order. The Erie Playhouse Playtime is the virtual activities found on their Facebook page. The World of Music is asking for recordings to be submitted. The Erie Dance Conservatory is offering free kids ballet classes through their Instagram app. Search for ECB Theater. WQLN is looking for submissions for a kids writers contest. See their Facebook page. PBSkids.org is filled with all sorts of ideas and activities. The National Zoo Association has a Facebook page that also has great ideas on it. And there's so many more. Share these ideas and many more with your friends and family who have young children, and we'll keep those young people not only entertained, but learning during this time and staying socially distant for their health and the health of their family. You can find so many more resources, fact sheets, and translations of many of those fact sheets on eriecountypa.gov under Resources on the COVID-19 page. Kids, we are counting on you to do your part for our community and keeping our community healthy. So make sure you wash your hands and wash them well. So wet your hands with water, apply the soap, and then scrub. And scrub really good for 20 seconds. So count to 10 and then count to 10 again. And make sure you get around each thumb and between each finger, and make sure you get the top of your hands also. And then rinse with water after you've counted to 20, and then dry your hands with a towel or a paper towel, and then you're all clean. So kids, we need you to do your part. Other creative things that we're hearing about in our community are bears in the window. So people can, as they take a walk with their family, can follow what's based on the book where we're going on a bear hunt. So if you have a bear in your house, a stuffed bear, put it up in your window for the young people in your neighborhood. Families are also looking at what we call social distancing egg hunts, where kids decorate and hang paper eggs in their front windows, and then people can count how many eggs they see along their walk. I'm going to have my grandchildren make me some eggs, and I'm going to hang them in my window. I'll have them put them on their front porch, and then I'll come pick them up, and I will go and hang those on my window. And yesterday was my granddaughter's birthday. So what we did is we showed up there. My husband had his ukulele. We stayed back quite a ways from the front porch. We sang happy birthday. She got her gift delivered to her by the mail. We watched her open her gift on the front porch, which actually was a ukulele, and we celebrated her 11th birthday. So each one of us needs to be creative in the way that we continue to connect with our family and our loved ones and our friends, but we need to do it safely, and we need to do it at a distance of at least 6 feet. So I ask you all to be creative, continue to make us proud in Erie County of the way that we are really pulling together as a community to really fight the COVID-19 pandemic. And now I'd like to open it up to questions from the media. And today we'll start with Jet TV.
Hi, Kathy, Samir. So I want to backtrack a little bit to social distancing. Obviously, yesterday we had beautiful weather outside, and I noticed along Presque Isle people especially were not really practicing social distancing. So are we figuring out a way to actually enforce that, or anything regarding the stay-at-home order?
So we continue to have the stay-at-home order. We also told people that they can get out and get some fresh air, and it's a better place to be. It's less likely to transfer the virus when you are outside in the fresh air and away from people. But all of us need to do our part. And the law enforcement has gone out to certain gatherings and told people why they need to social distancing and to try to break up those gatherings. But we won't be arresting people, and we certainly won't be fining people. But all of us, I think, can do our part to encourage people when we see them and maybe explain this is why we're doing this, for the wellness of our entire community. We have, I think, two things in our favor here. One is we're not as populated and people don't live as densely as they do in so many other communities, let's just say New York City and Chicago and those big cities. And secondly, we do have a lot of open green space, whether it be Presque Isle, whether it be any of the wonderful parks throughout our municipalities, some of the woods that we have that are owned by Fish and Game Commission, for example. So we have a lot of places where people can go out and hike and be away from people. But I would just say if you're out there and you see too many people, go the other way. And if you feel comfortable enough to speak to those people and say, you know, we're all being encouraged to social distance, but I'm not expecting people to police their fellow citizens. So it really has to be done on a case-by-case basis. But it is a problem. We know that particularly younger people sometimes just don't understand this. They don't understand why they have to do this, and they know they probably won't get very sick even if they get COVID-19. But as I've preached since the beginning, this is about all of the citizens and keeping particularly that 20% who we know could have a serious reaction to the COVID-19 virus safe. Erie Times News, do you have a question?
Hi, Kathy. It's David. We've seen 7 confirmed cases in the last 2 days, basically doubles the confirmed case total for Erie County. Is this an anomaly? I mean, you know, it's still relatively low numbers compared to some other bigger counties, or have your epidemiologists told you this is the start of what we can expect, a more rapid spread?
I think we're going to see more numbers this week, and a lot of that's going to be because of the increased testing that has been going on. Now with both Allegheny Health Network and UPMC having their off-site testing open, more people are, I think, getting tested than there were, and so I think we're going to see those numbers climb somewhat. And I think just even the 7 that I've announced in the last few days just goes to show that. But again, we can trace each one of these individuals back to either having contact directly with a COVID-19 positive person or that they traveled outside of our community. And then that goes to the other piece. We need people to stop traveling. We need people to stay in Erie County, not go visit their friends or their relatives, and not have their friends or their relatives come into Erie County and potentially bring that here.
And in relation to that, do you have a number for negative tests?
We do not, and I brought this up again to my epidemiology team first thing this morning, and they truly want these numbers for themselves too. It will help them with looking at our incident rate, and so they are working hard to get those numbers, but they didn't have them by the time I came on the air today. Talk Erie, do you have any questions?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Kathy, yesterday on Meet the Press, Dr. Deborah Birx, the White House COVID-19 response coordinator, talked about looking for smaller metropolitan areas that haven't had a major outbreak to do some surveillance testing of the general population. Do you think that Erie County would consider volunteering for surveillance testing to contribute to the national response?
We would love to be part of that. If they're looking for a community, I think we're probably one of those communities that would be just the type of community they're looking for. I did not watch that show yesterday, but I appreciate bringing this up to me, and I'm going to have my staff look into this. So thank you for bringing that up. Erie News Now?
Hi, just one question for you here. Do you happen to have an update on the person who is hospitalized?
I just know that that person is still hospitalized, but I don't have any update on their condition at this time.
Thanks.
Jet TV?
Yep. So with Pennsylvania seeing the first COVID case within like a correctional facility, is the Erie County prison taking any extra precautions?
We have been taking extra precautions at the Erie County Jail ever since this outbreak began. And so everyone who comes in and out of our jail is checked for their temperature upon arriving. And we have no more direct visitation, no person-to-person visitation. We've implemented just a number of different practices to try to reduce COVID-19 entering into the jail, because as we all know, that could be devastating, as it's very difficult to social distance in a facility where you're housing inmates. We've seen that, of course, one now in, I believe, one of our state correctional institutions, and we've certainly seen that much greater and much greater numbers in the New York State prison system. So we're trying to use best practices. We are using best practices and trying to make sure that we keep our prison inmates safe, as well as all of those who work there every single day. Erie Times News?
Kathy, if you could, I want to get your feelings on WAPTEC and having more employees there today. Are you comfortable with the precautions being taken there to reduce the chances of spread?
So WAPTEC did bring on many more of their employees back today, and it was a concern of mine. I wrote actually a letter to the governor asking him to reconsider a full waiver that was granted to them. But in the meantime, I also decided to be proactive, and I reached out to the management of WAPTEC, and I'm happy to say that the management out there had a long conversation with my environmental staff today. And during that, they explained everything that they're trying to do to mitigate any expansion of COVID-19 into their plant, and then, of course, to their people, their families, and then our community as a whole. So they have implemented quite a few different things that I think are going to be very helpful. And we also gave them a few more suggestions of things that we think they could also look at potentially doing. So after that long conversation and having talked to my environmental staff about that, I feel much more comfortable. But anytime you have a number of people together, you have to be extra, extra cautious. And so I'm hoping that all of these practices will stay intact and they'll be very diligent about what they say they're doing.
And just to follow up on that, what are some of the specific things that they told you they're doing that made you feel a little bit better about it?
So they have closed their cafeteria. In their break rooms, they're not allowing more than 2 people to be at a table. They are deep cleaning nightly, and other cleanings being done throughout the day. They have a temperature sensor that they're using for everyone coming in. They are not allowing delivery drivers to utilize their facilities. They have, I think, porta-johns put outside for them, so anyone who might bring a delivery into the plant instead of coming in will just use that outdoor facility. And they've also, I think one of the really great things they've done is on their shift work, they now have 3 different shift times, and those are in half an hour increment changes, for example, like 6, 6:30, and 7. So that reduces the crowd coming in at one specific time. Then this also staggers their break times and also staggers their departure time. So I think that is actually a very good improvement that they have made. Talk Erie?
Yes, ma'am. Could you elaborate on this D grade regarding movement that Erie County got, and why there might be a situation where we wouldn't have a better grade regarding people moving around? Is it within the county? Is it people coming through the county? Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I just got that information today from someone sent it to me, and then we went on the website, and the last data they had on there was from the 24th, I believe, of March, and it's Unicast is the website. Need to dig into that a little bit more, but they were looking to achieve To get an A, I think you had to achieve at least 40% decrease in movement around your county, and we had only achieved, don't quote me on this because I don't have it in front of me, but we had only it was a smaller percentage. I mean, I want to say it was somewhere between 15 and 20%, might have even been a little bit less than 15, but that gave us a score of a D. So we have actually seen a decrease in our movement, but they're saying to truly get that social distancing, you need to have that 40% decrease. I had read something else that you need to have at least 90% of the people doing the social distancing. So I think we still have a ways to go on this. I can't make this plea enough to everyone who I'm speaking to out there, and to those I'm speaking to, please pass this on to those that you are in contact with. The social distancing is the tool that we have. It's the tool that we have to keep from getting what we call community spread of COVID-19 in Erie County, and I need everyone's help to do that. Erie News Now, any further questions?
I do have. Regarding WebTech, I know you said you wrote a letter to the governor. Now you've talked with the company. Do you still stand by that letter to the governor? Do you still want him to consider, or reconsider rather, that full waiver?
I do want it to be looked at as to whether all of the work there is actually essential and life-sustaining. There's questions in my mind if it all is. But they did get a full waiver from the state, and so we're trying to work with what we have, and that is a full waiver, and I'm grateful that the WebTech Corporation was willing to work with my personnel who I thought would be beneficial to them. And again, my personnel was happy with what they're doing, but also gave them some more suggestions, maybe of a few things they hadn't thought of.
Thanks.
Jet TV?
Yeah. So earlier, Governor Tom Wolf suspended all non-life sustaining businesses as well as schools indefinitely for right now. So I guess, do you agree with that measure being taken, or do you have any fears with shutting schools down?
I think we need to do whatever we can do to really stop the spread of COVID-19 in the Commonwealth. And I think the governor has made, obviously, a good move on this. We obviously see the president now looking to the end of April before he sees a let up in all of us social distancing. And so this is on the national and the state, and of course here on the local level. And, you know, I'm grateful to both our president and to our governor for doing their part in trying to control this. I can only work on Erie County, and so if I can only work on Erie County, I need those others to be working in their own counties and obviously on that bigger level. So as long as we're all aligned, which we are currently, I think we can really make a difference in this nation and really, you know, fight this epidemic and stop, hopefully, the deaths that we're seeing. That's ultimately, we're trying to save lives here. And we want to get our economy back on track. We want to get people back up working. We want to get our businesses open. But we're talking about people's lives that are at stake. And so I'm grateful to the steps being taken, certainly locally, nationally, and statewide. Erie Times News?
Yes, Kathy. Last week we had talked about that 3 of the first 5 cases were related, the first case and the third and the fourth. Have many of the following 10 cases been connected with those 3?
They've, we have a number of them that have been travel related, people that had gone outside of our community and come back with the COVID-19, and then some of them are connected. They aren't all connected to the same group or the same person, but they may be connected to another individual within our 13 who's had it. So, you know, we have just a number of ways, but they aren't all going back to like the same person. It didn't start with 1, and that's how we got to 13. If that answers your question?
Well, and out of the 10 that have followed, have there been any of those 10 that are connected with those 3 that we had talked about last week that you're aware of?
The 10, I'm sorry.
Well, we were at 15. We're at 15 now. When we had the first 5, 3 of them were connected. 3 and 4 were connected to number 1. I'm just asking, are you aware that any of the 10 more recent ones that have followed are connected to those 3?
You know, I'm not positive. There might be 1 or so, but it's not like a number of them are. I guess that's the best answer I'd have. I don't really have a clear indication of where everyone is connected to which number, case number 1 through 13, but I do know some of our newer cases particularly are not connected to those original cases. So we haven't seen a big explosion from that first group of people. If that helps.
And then just one, it does. And one really quick follow-up on that. I know the one person that's from out of the county is still hospitalized. Has any of the other cases required hospitalization?
We have no Erie County positive cases that have been hospitalized, and so we only, we have the one individual that we talked about last week who's not counted in our Erie County numbers because that individual doesn't reside in Erie County, and when they got tested, they fill out their paperwork, and so that number is counted in a different county. But of our 15 cases, none of those people are hospitalized. Any last questions from Talk Erie?
No, thank you, ma'am.
How about Erie News Now? Any last questions?
Sure, just one for you. As this week begins here and we start seeing numbers going up a little bit over the past handful of days, what should people be aware of here? What's reasonable to expect so that, if numbers go up, what should people know?
People should know that if they really, really limit their interaction with any other people who don't live in their home, they're going to have a very, very small chance of ever contracting COVID-19. So the more you can stay distant from other people that you don't live with, the healthier you're going to stay. So that is, I guess, back to what I said a few days ago and Governor Wolf said, just assume that every person you come in contact with is a potential carrier of COVID-19. Use your hand sanitizer, wash your hands often, stay away from people, stay out of buildings if you can. Some of you I know have to go to work, and hopefully your business is following very good practices to keep you safe. But you also have to take responsibility yourself. And so say hand sanitizer, washing your hands works just as well as hand sanitizer often and thoroughly. And then when you get home, take precautions. And if you're working in a place with a lot of other people, then I would suggest that you take your clothes off and put new clothes on, wash those clothes before you start your evening in your own home. Any last questions from anyone else?
Samir.
Okay, go ahead, Samir.
Okay, so I know we aren't releasing exactly where in the county individuals are. I just wanted to bring this up. I know, I believe it's Allegheny County has released municipalities, or at least zip codes. Ohio is doing that, I believe. Do you think Erie will move towards that, or are we just going to keep the general area of the county?
So the reason I think why we haven't done this is because we don't want people to have some kind of false sense of security. If we release that someone lives, let's just pick some place that they live, let's just say they live in McCain, and you live in Harbor Creek, or you live in Fairview, and you might say, wow, they don't live in my community. Well, you don't know where they work, you don't know where they shop, you don't know who they came in contact with who might live in Harbor Creek or Fairview. So it really doesn't reduce or change your chances of contracting COVID-19. So we want everyone to realize that we are one community and people move around within our community. So don't expect that just because someone lives in one place, that that's the only people that have to be concerned about this. And the more and more numbers we get, pretty much every municipality is probably going to be affected specifically with a positive case, or just about every municipality. And so it doesn't really matter I think, and for sometimes, I hate to say this, but it's more people just want to know for, I don't know, their own personal, I don't want to say they're nosy, but it doesn't really matter, because people really need to be cautious no matter where they are and who they are and where they're coming from and where they're going. And so we are too close of a community for us to be thinking that somebody who lives in one municipality doesn't move into another one. And so, again, I think it's more out of a sense of false security that we think it's just wise to say they're from Erie County as a whole. We're also a much smaller community than a place like Allegheny, when you're talking probably, I don't know, well over 600,000 people. So here we don't even have, we have about a third of that number that Allegheny has living here. So again, I don't think it really serves us at this time.
Perfect. Thanks.
Somebody else had a question out there.
Yeah,
Yes.
Kathy, David, I just want to get what the response has been to the rumor number that the county set up. Any idea how many calls and how productive has it been?
So the rumor hotline, I'd say we're reevaluating it, looking at seeing if it's really beneficial, because we're getting a lot of calls in the rumor hotline that really maybe are more calls specific to the 451-6700. It might be about a business that's out of compliance, or when they're questioning about that, or somebody who's got a medical question, and those questions really should go to the 451-6700 number. And so again, we're watching that this week to see, how that number goes and whether it's really beneficial to have two different numbers or not. It really was meant when people are hearing things that just maybe don't sound right, and they just want to find out, is it true or is it not? So that's really what that was set up for, and maybe more around, people like to spread things, whether it's online or through other means, and so we want to stop those and nip them in the bud if there's something that's untrue out there. And obviously, I'm trying to give you the right information. I'm being very truthful and honest about all of this with the community, and we want to keep that kind of line of communication going. So we'll evaluate it again at the end of this week. But thanks for asking about that.
Thank you.
And there was one more person out there who wanted to ask a question.
Yes, sorry. This is Hannah McDonald with Pennsylvania Capital Star. I'm wondering, 2 weeks ago when Governor Wolf shut down the non-life-sustaining businesses, many people started their 14-day self-isolation at that point because that was the guidelines at that point. And so now we're going on the end of those 14 days. What do you want those people to know who might think that they're getting to the end of their mostly homebound days?
Well, first of all, if you have self-quarantined for 14 days or you're almost there at 14 days, thank you. Thank you for doing that for our community. You are the reason why we're not seeing community spread here in Erie County. And once you get to the end of that 14 days, you still need to social distance. That doesn't change, but now you can go outside and take a walk, go for a bike ride, go to the grocery store, again, using your good personal hygiene practices and staying socially distant from others so that you don't contract COVID-19, but you have been a hero and somebody who's doing a great service for our community. And I know that has not been easy to self-quarantine. I recently heard from a friend whose son had come back from New York City, self-quarantined for 14 days, is now out of that. And obviously, they're just happy that they can actually have dinner together now instead of in separate places. So that's what I would say to that. And first of all, let me apologize too for not asking if there's any other media outlets on with us. It's been mostly the four I've called upon, so I apologize for not asking if there was any other outlets on.
That is okay. I understand. Thank you very much.
Do you have any other questions?
Nope, that's it for me today.
Are there any other media outlets on with us today? Well, with that being said, I want to thank you again. Thank you to our media partners for helping to get the right message out there to our community and to help fight the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you again to our residents, and thank you to our young people who I know this is not easy. This is very difficult. You love being around your friends, and you will get back to your friends, but the sooner you'll get back to them is if you help us fight the spread of COVID-19. So thank you. Everyone, please stay home, stay safe, stay calm.